This is the third and final tutorial to help you understand paraphrasing, a necessary and significant skill you will need to use in your university writing. In this segment, we will look at the effect of only changing the words or structure of a sentence, distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable paraphrasing, and what makes some paraphrasing better than others. Let's begin by reviewing the key paraphrasing principles discussed in Module 2. To appropriately paraphrase, you must do all of the following. First, you must change some of the words. Second, you must change some of the sentence structure. Lastly, you must reference the original source in some way. You must do all three of these in order to paraphrase correctly. To not do one of them could result in suspicion or accusation of plagiarism. Let me show you what I mean. In this example, we can see that only words have been changed. The team becomes the researchers. Presence of phages becomes existence of phages. Reduce the number is changed to decrease the quantity. And attached becomes affix. And although I've changed many of the words, it would still be plagiarized. Even if I include a reference, as I have done here, it is still considered plagiarism. Why? Because I have not written a sentence of my own. I have merely changed words. And to do so, I could have, as I did here, just used the thesaurus feature on my computer. Neither the sentence structure nor the ideas are mine. What is mine is simply the choice of some words. Similarly, if I only change the structure, I can be accused of plagiarizing. In this example, I have moved things around. But I haven't really written my own sentence. The first and second elements of the sentence are moved around. The third element, reduce the number of bacteria, stays put, and the fourth and fifth parts of the sentence are exchanged. Why is this considered plagiarized? Just as when we only change words, when we merely move the pieces of sentences around, we have done little. The ideas and information, and even most of the words, are not ours. We have just chosen how to order parts of the sentence. Now that I've shown you what not to do, let's use this same sentence then to more fully understand what makes a good paraphrase and what kinds of paraphrasing might be problematic or cause us trouble or accusations of plagiarizing. In this first example, we are not even attempting to paraphrase and have just taken the exact words from the original. In sentence number 1, we've used the words and there has not been any sort of acknowledgement. In sentence number 2, we have the same sentence but now with a reference. However, that is still not enough. Both of these are examples of plagiarizing. Why? You can see the words are taken directly from the original quotation, but there are no quotation marks around them, indicating that this is a direct quotation. Even though in the second sentence I've used a reference, both are examples of plagiarizing. Examples 3 and 4 here are acceptable. Note that they both use quotation marks to indicate the words that have been taken from the original, as well as a reference indicating whose words these are. The only difference between them is that while number 3 gives a reference in parentheses at the end, number 4 uses a signal phrase, according to Jung, indicating within the sentence whose words these are. In this example, we are now paraphrasing the original text, changing some of the words and some of the structure. Note some of the words and the word forms that have been changed to make an appropriate paraphrase. Note also changes to the sentence structure. The subject of the sentence is changed from "these protect" to "the host is protected by." We also go from having the two ideas in two different sentences to placing them in the same sentence, although in different clauses. And there is even a minor change at the end of the sentence, switching animals and viruses around. However, number 1 lacks a reference to where this idea came from and is thus plagiarized. Number 2 is the same sentence but includes a reference, so it is an acceptable paraphrase. Example number 3 is a better paraphrase than the previous example. This paraphrase has more significant structural changes than sentence number 2. For example, it takes the last element of the original sentence and places it first. Sentence number 4 I have called the best, because in addition to word changes, it has greater change than the other sentences, placing the benefits to the phages first and the host second. As well, it includes a signal phrase, Jung suggests, near the beginning of the sentence, making clear the idea is from someone else. I'd like to suggest you include signal phrases frequently at this point in your writing development. There are 2 reasons for this. It ensures you keep straight whose ideas are whose, protecting yourself from inadvertent or unintentional plagiarism. The other reason is more from a reader's point of view, particularly someone grading the writing. If I'm reading sentence number 3, I might be thinking as I'm reading, this person's idea is great. It is only at the end of the sentence, when I see the reference, that I realize that the idea is not the writer's. The writer's done nothing wrong, but the effect may be less than positive on the reader. In sentence number 4, the reader realizes right from the start with the signal phrase, Jung suggests, that the idea and the information is not the writer's, but a paraphrase of Jung's. I mentioned in an earlier segment that paraphrasing is often used to integrate others' ideas with our own, or more precisely, we use others' ideas or words to support our own ideas or thoughts on a particular issue. This example looks at how best to do that. This sentence paraphrases the original ideas and then follows that with the writer's own idea. The problem here is that the writer took a significant part of the original and copied it word for word into their sentence. But quotation marks were not used to indicate that these are someone else's words. There is also no reference. This sentence, then, is plagiarized. Some students might argue that the second element in the sentence here contains the more important idea, and that is the writer's, so what does it really matter? This may be true, but the level of importance of the idea is not the issue here. Rather, words have been copied without appropriate recognition with quotation marks and a reference. This sentence now is the exact same as the last sentence, but now we have put in quotation marks as well as a reference, making the paraphrasing and source use acceptable and correct. I would also like to point out another aspect of source use and referencing that will help you keep things clear. Some might take the reference and place it at the end of the sentence. To do so would not be wrong in the sense that you have done something against the rules. Rather, you have made it appear that both the quotation and the idea that follows it are from Baker and Kuntz, when in fact the idea in the second part of the sentence is yours. The point is this: you are not getting the proper credit for what you have done, so take care where you put the reference. I'm calling sentence number 3 here a better sentence for a number of reasons. First, instead of quoting, it offers a paraphrase of the original. Paraphrasing is generally harder to do than quoting, and thus shows a higher level of skill. Second, we have used a signal phrase at the beginning of the part we have paraphrased, so it is very clear whose idea this is. Note also that with the signal phrase, we have added the phrase in an educational context. I call this a contextual tag, as it gives the reader an understanding of the context of the original idea or quotation that may be different from the one we are discussing. And the last reason I think this is a better sentence is that our idea is presented first and then followed with the support from an external source. Placing our ideas first gives them greater importance and clearly indicates the external source is supporting them. We are just about done here, but let's go over a paraphrasing checklist. Did you fully understand the passage paraphrased? You can't really make a correct paraphrase unless you understand the passage fully. Did you change some of the words? Remember, we don't need to change all the words, and there is no mathematical formula for how many to change, but we do need to change some of the words. We may not, in fact, want to change the keywords. They are keywords for a reason. Do the changed words maintain the same contextual meaning? Make sure you choose words that are appropriate to the context, appropriate to your audience, and appropriate to what you are saying. Did you change some of the sentence structure? Again, we don't need to change everything in the sentence structure, but some part, some aspect of the sentence structure needs to be changed. Did you reference the original source? Either use a signal phrase within your own sentence or a reference in parentheses somewhere in your sentence to indicate where this came from. Did you use a signal phrase, or would one be appropriate? But as I have suggested earlier, I would recommend you using signal phrases at this point in your writing. I hope this tutorial has helped you understand paraphrasing better. The difficult part now is to use it effectively. Remember, paraphrasing is a skill, so be patient with yourself and recognize that it takes time. Time to read for understanding, time to practice writing, and time to make mistakes and be corrected. In other words, time to learn proper paraphrasing.